Okay, Mr. Coppola, it was very great now that I saw you with children. I think it's like amazing masterclass, and I think they will remember it for all their life. And you often make the same with your children.
Oh yes, yes. Well, I love children. When I began, when I was like 17 years old, 18 years old, I was a drama counselor. In other words, I would go to the summer camp and live there, and we'd have many children starting from 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to teenagers. They were all boys, and then there was another camp nearby that was all girls. So every week I would do plays with the children, the little ones and the bigger ones, every week a new play. And then on the end I would do a musical with the boys and the girls who were teenagers. So I enjoyed very much my time with children. And when I had my own children and my nephews and cousins in the summer, I would have them do plays, and that's how they learned how to make theater or make. It was like the Seagull, you know. We did in the summer. We would do plays.
Really? Okay, nice. And I think that when you are happy with family, you are happy in all life. It's for me the same. What is for you family? Just 3 words. What the family is for you?
Well, the people you love the most, that you know the best.
And you have a lot of friends. And what character friends have to be a friend?
Well, my favorite thing in life is to learn something, you know. So of course I like friends who know more than I do. So when I talk to them, I can learn about whatever, you know, history, about life, about literature, about science. So I think it's very important for me to have friends who when I spend time, enjoy time with them, I come away knowing more than I did before.
And women, that they make, of course, they do some great in your life, but maybe some women who you remember, they make especially in your life. I mean, you remember them.
Yes, when I was a student at film school, my directing teacher was a woman, and she was, in fact, the only woman director in Hollywood during the first 50 years. Her name was Dorothy Arzner. She directed many films with Joan Crawford and other great actresses, and she was a wonderful, wonderful lady, and Miss Arzner was very encouraging to me. And I have known in my life some, you know, really great, accomplished women who, you know, again, from whom you can learn a lot. If your main goal is to learn something, then whether it's a child, because I learn a lot from children, I learn from those children, you know, you can't have a human relationship without each of you learning something. So, but for women, it's wonderful when they have a field of knowledge that is, you know, in something that you don't know a lot about, and so you have the pleasure of your company, but you also learn about whatever she knows. It's like Scheherazade, you know.
And what the main character had be in woman that you love? I mean, what especially in woman?
I think what I love is you know, kind of a psychology of playfulness, so that life is always changing and always interesting and always playful. I feel that we are still the children we were when we were 5 and 6 years old, if we're lucky. We are born with all of these wonderful qualities that we're given as children. You speak about art. I mean, have you ever seen the picture made by a 2-year-old that wasn't beautiful? It's all beautiful. But then as we get older, they beat it out of us. So I try to stay as a child as much as possible, and I love women who have that same playfulness and imagination.
As far as I know, Eisenstein changed your life. You became a director, and who else made the same thing in your life?
Someone I know who had a big change like in their life the same way as me? Well, I had a young friend who was an assistant at first because he was younger than me, and we worked together a lot, and then he made Star Wars, so that was George Lucas. And we were, you know, sort of like brothers. The way I was older, he was younger, but he had a great success. You know, success is very a little complicated because you know, we are all shy a little bit, and so when everyone in the world knows you through your work, when you become a celebrity, then it's easy to become embarrassed. You know, you walk in a room, everyone's looking at you, taking pictures of you, you become shy. But I know of other people, such as the example I gave you, the same thing happens to.
I see that in your films it's war and peace. Is it actually for you?
No, I mean, I think my career went away because I became a director of big Hollywood films, and so they were gangster films or war films. That's not actually my most interested subject. But when you make one successful film, then they only want you to make that kind of film again. So they can't think of you as making a different. Now, I don't make those films anymore. I don't make what we call industry films anymore. I make only very small personal films, which I finance myself, and which are more an expression of how I feel about my life and the things I want to learn about. I believe that when you make a film, it should be like asking a question. And then when the film is finished, you should know something of the answer. But it's very hard to go to a producer and say, well, I want to make this film, give me money, and what's it about? I said, it's a question, I don't know. I have to learn what it's about by making the film. So I have made the decision to just earn my own money in other ways, and then finance my own film so I don't have to convince anyone to give me the money. But you know, a lot of great Russian artists were,
for example, for you?
Well, the Russian composers, they wrote music because they loved it, but Borodin was a scientist, Rimsky-Korsakov was a naval officer, they all had different jobs, so that's the way I think I am. I earn my living in the wine business, and I do film as an amateur. I'm an amateur filmmaker. That's why I don't like to talk about master classes, because I don't feel like I'm a master, I'm a student.
No, I saw it. It's great for children.
No, they write it down, but I don't give master classes because I'm not a master.
We tell about wine. I know that you are a winemaker, and is it a hobby for you, or it's more than a hobby?
Well, I have two very important wine companies in the United States, and you know, it's how I support myself and how I make film. One of them is one of America's first and greatest wine estate, and that it makes a very premium wine at the level of Bordeaux or great wines in France, which is how we measure this type of wine, and so I do that too. But that's also an art.
Yeah, and why you choose the name Rubicon, right? It's the name of wine.
It's a funny story. Actually, years ago when we were making that wine was a blend of grapes. Normally, in the old days in California, you name the wine after the grape. So you said Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or Cabernet Franc. But when you mix the wines together, you couldn't call them Cabernet Sauvignon because it was Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot as well. So a law in America says that if you do that, then you have to call it California red wine. And nobody, you know, will pay the price for California red wine that they will for Cabernet Sauvignon. So the decision was made to give it what we call a name, a proprietary name. Like, what's your first name?
Елена.
Елена. I could call the wine Елена, and then I would own that name, and that people would know, oh, this is a very expensive wine, because I wouldn't call it California red wine. I'd call it that. So I was doing some study of Rome, and so I called my wine Rubicon, but that was just the name of the blend.
And at the end, I want to ask you, What's a charity for you?
What is charity for me? Well, everyone has their own personal philosophy of charity. I have a few. One is that wherever in the world there is a disaster, it could be in Japan as there is now, it could be in Guatemala with a mudslide, it could be an earthquake in Haiti, but there's always, every 4 months, there's always a terrible, terrible, terrible disaster. So for me, I think myself and my family and my children, we always send immediately to wherever in the world is a disaster so that the people can get help from the various facilities. So that's one level of charity. And lately, there's something happening every 2 months, you know, a big, 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 terrible disaster such as just happened with the tsunami in Japan or the earthquake in Haiti. So that's one level of charity. The other charity are things that I personally actually wish to deal with by starting the organization to deal with it. And I've done that. Normally you do that and you give support of money for 7 years, at which time you hope if what you've created is good, it should begin to support itself, and then you can look and do something else. So I began one in San Francisco for homeless people, because I felt the government wasn't effectively helping them, and we made a very successful charity in which we called North Beach Citizens. But sometimes to help a community, I would found like a community band that people could play in an orchestra band, you know, old and young together. So I like to do things that I have more that address the needs that I feel are necessary in the community or in the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you that you coming here to our charity event. It's very important for us, of course.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come. It's a treat for us to come to Moscow. I've been here several times. There are many beautiful things. My wife is now in the Pushkin Museum, which she is, I'm sure, enjoying. And it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for making it possible for us to visit again.
Thank you.
Thank you.